the guys from Ping, they've kind of shown me how much the equipment matters.
I just love that I can hit any shot I kind of want.
We're going to be able to tell some fun stories about what goes on here to help golfers play better golf.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Ping Proving Grounds podcast. I'm Shane Bacon. I'd say joined as always by Marty Jertson, but Marty, occasionally you're popping out on your own. You're hosting pods. You're getting yourself dialed. I mean, add it to the resume, baby.
Well, I saw yours with Bubba at the Masters. I didn't get the invite, so Shane, I just had to reciprocate a little bit.
Yeah, it was fun, man. I mean, chatting with those guys, Masters Week is always so crazy. Been a wild year, I think, in the golf world. Something exciting that Ping has rolling out. I in kind of the middle of this summer, which is exciting for us, is i240. And we're going to dive into kind of some of the new irons for Ping. And, I want to start here, Marty, because I think something we've preached a lot on this podcast is mixed bag. And I think that's something that you have been a proponent of really long before it became popular. And I feel like when, the irons pop, it's just such an exciting time for any player because it adds another layer of mixing up the golf bag. And so I feel like you're a perfect person to talk about this because you're somebody that's been a big fan of this for so many years.
Yeah, the mixed bag is it's like I don't know, it's been like a secret menu item or something. I think the very detailed techie players know how to do. They know how to do it right. There wasn't great tools out there to help figure it out. A lot of guessing and checking on lofts, lengths, how they're going to fly, how they're going to spin. Well, Shane, I think what's fun about 240 and even our brand new IDI that's in our product suite allows the everyday person to build the mixed bag just like our tour players. One of the funnest examples of this for me right now is Neil Shipley. He plays our i230, probably be moving to our i240 here pretty soon, 3-iron. Then he plays a Blueprint S, I think 4-iron, Blueprint S4, 4 through 6. Then he goes to Blueprint T, 7 through 9. Then he plays our S159 46 degree. So he's playing 4 different sets basically and 3 through pitching wedge. I absolutely love that.
He's like the perfect brand ambassador, right? He's like, you want to see any of these irons? I've got them all through the bag. I mean, you mentioned the secret menu. It's like this is the animal style of golf,
yeah.
Right? The fact that you can throw in different things. When do you feel like mixing the iron sets became popular on tour? When did that kind of start to pop? Was there an iteration of irons that you felt like you started to see players go an I-iron with the long irons and maybe an S59 or something in the lower irons?
Yeah. No, I do think that. I mean, traditionally, Shane, until the last 2, 3, 4 years, it's been just the one club in the bag. Okay, you'll play, you'll play our blades all the way until you're 3-iron, and maybe you got an i200 3-iron in the bag or whatever, or 4-iron, something like that. But now you're seeing the Neil Shipley configurations and things of that nature. I mean, it's really now that we have, our i500 series iron, our i530 that has some distance. Maybe folks are playing that in your 3-iron, driving iron type of club. And then now that we have our i240, Blueprint S, Blueprint T, all with the same lofts and length configuration, and they do different things from a distance standpoint, that's really where we made it super convenient, both for tour and now using our Copilot gapping app tools. Your everyday golfer can get these absolutely dialed and make them work seamlessly right out of the gate.
Yeah, Marty. I mean, I've been an i230, 4-iron, sometimes now with the 3-iron in the bag, depending on the golf course, and maybe 7-wood, maybe the 3-iron. It's something that I've really been a big fan of. I don't know about you. The older I get, the less excited I am to hit a long iron. And so any of the help I can get in that department is great.
Yep.
I love kind of going from the Blueprint S 5-iron into the i230. And so now we go to i240. What's the big difference in 240 versus the success of 230? Because I feel like 230 has been a great iron for so many people.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It's where is it the most important? Why are you playing the 230? Why have you played the 230 long iron? It's because it's more forgiving, launches a little bit higher, gives a little more ball speed. That's where you need a little bit of help in all those areas. So that's where we put the focus in the 240, is how can we elevate the inertia of the long iron specifically. So the 3-iron through 7-iron, the inertia is way higher. It's like 5-6% higher in the 3-4 iron. Then it goes to 3-4% higher in the 5-6-7 iron. So we really elevated the inertia in the long irons, and we did that, Shane, through, if you kind of look at the iron, the cavity view, we gave it a little bit more of this like cavity look to it. And at the same time, the badge that we use in the back, which helps with feel and vibration damping and things of that nature, with which golfers expect and yearn for in our i240 iron, we made it substantially lighter. So it's like 8 grams lighter, and we really use that to save weight from the middle of the club, specifically in those long irons. Distributed the weight low to lower the CG, and we have more mass in the heel weight, the tip weight, and the toe weight to boost the inertia. So you're going to see higher launch angle, a little bit more ball speed, and substantially more forgiveness, which I think is why players like me and you use it and transition to these in the long irons, in the long irons specifically.
I find it so interesting in terms of transitioning because, the irons, as we said, i230 has been a big success. And I think so many people have been a big fan of that iron. I have definitely been a big fan of those for a number of years. When it comes to drivers, when you go into a new driver category at Ping, I'm assuming forgiveness, distance, things like that pop up. And what are we going to do now to improve our driver from one iteration to the next? What's like number one on the chalkboard when it comes to irons? I mean, is it height? Is it distance? Is it forgiveness? Like, what's the number one thing you guys, the smart guys in the back rooms, are thinking about when you're diving into the new iteration of iron?
Oh, such a great question, Shane. It's dependent on which iron we're designing, right? So, like, let's say our tour irons. When I say tour irons, I consider the irons where the player brings the speed. And this is Blueprint S, Blueprint T, and this iron we're talking about today, which is i240. That's where, generally speaking, the player is bringing the speed to the table, and we don't necessarily need to have the club have a lot of face flexing or some exotic things to get it to go further. Those irons we approach differently. The importance level of what we're trying to optimize for, maximize, or minimize is different for that category of player. So a big thing we try to do in these tour irons is optimize the launch and spin, the land angle, then things like turf interaction, feel, things of that nature are on that priority list. But one big piece, Shane, that we studied quite a bit, and it's one of the big things when you go first set down the i240, is the grooves are substantially different. So with i230, we use this groove we called the Micro Max groove. So they were very tightly spaced. And we did a lot of research on this topic. This is actually a very fun thing to talk about, where we're taking very nuanced, detailed feedback from Tour and plugging it right into our product quickly. Is that with that groove that we used on the 230 Micro Max, very tightly spaced, we sacrificed or gave up a little bit of spin, like not a lot. We're talking like 150 RPMs, somewhere in that neighborhood, on dry, good condition lies. So if your ball's in the fairway or you're hitting off a tee, the iron spun about 100 to 150 RPMs less. But what we gained by having that groove is a reduction in flyers, right? And so, but after we kind of launched that iron, we had it on tour. The players are so good, both PGA and this iron is super popular on the LPGA Tour. So both PGA and LPGA Tour players were giving us this feedback that they wanted to spin a little bit more when they have those perfect lies, because that's when they need to do their scoring. That's the green light zone, right? So they're like, hey guys, I know I'm getting less flyers out of the rough. They're realizing it, but give me more spin when I'm ready to score, which is shots off the tee. I know, Shane, we've talked about that quite a bit, as you actually hit your irons off the tee, your mid irons, about a third of the time. So put more priority on having the ball spin a little bit more off a tee, off of good lies. And we actually made some 230 irons with this, we call it the tour groove, the groove that's on the 240 now. And we've had a lot of PGA like Victor Perez and tons of LPGA Tour players use this new groove that's on the 240 with their 230s because we validated this concept. It gave them a little bit more spin when they're ready to score. So really that premium on spin, which reduce their increase their distance control, improves their peak height, stopping power when they're ready to score.
Marty, I don't want you to necessarily name names, but are there certain tour players that you guys maybe go to more often than others? Maybe some that can just explain it better, like what they're looking for or what makes sense? Because, I mean, not everybody's going to sing the same way, right? But I'm assuming there are certain tour players that the moment you need feedback, you go, we got to go to X.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, I even remember thinking back when we were doing some of our original iron designs. I mean, a little step back into history here would be when we were working on like the I-10 iron long time ago. It was Chris DeMarco. I mean, that's when DeMarco was battling Tiger at the Masters, and DeMarco was like our best.
High to power.
Yeah, he was our best iron player, and he was like the quintessential i3 plus blade player. So we would fly down and work with DeMarco because he was so nuanced and so detailed. And yes, we do have that short list of players. And I think what's fun now is we have so many very technical, detailed, nuanced players on the ladies tour as well that we get a lot of great feedback again because this iron is so important. It's the I Series iron has always been kind of dominant on the LPGA tour with both our staffers and tons of non-staff players. And so we have a short list out there that's very fun to work with some of the more detailed and nuanced ladies on the LPGA tour that give us some very insightful feedback on how the irons perform.
I feel like you've touched a little bit on this, but when you think about i240 as you kind of fit it in the category amongst the Ping irons, who's the player that this fits the best when you think about i240?
Yeah, no, I think it's an avid player. And maybe that our blueprints are just too small. They scare you a little bit, and you need some more help. But you're not the player that wants to go to our i530. Like the i530 is strong lofted. That's an iron that's going to help you. Maybe you're hit it a little bit further. That iron's going to give you some distance infusion. The lofts are a little bit stronger, but we could retro-spec them and power spec them to kind of dial in, launch, and spin on those. So you're not necessarily looking for that distance infusion, but you need a little bit more forgiveness. Maybe also you're an avid player. When I say avid player, 10 handicap and below is good here, but certainly your 5, 6, 7 handicaps and below. I-230 is in the sweet spot if you have plenty of distance, plenty of speed, and you're looking for this kind of mid-size, high forgiveness iron that gives you the ability to control your ball flight really well. So you're a scorer. You need to use your irons to score and control your distance. Where then the i530, that's going to give you a little bit more distance infusion. That's going to be for maybe your avid player, aging gracefully, but you still want to hit 8-iron from your 160 number. Then take
right.
And maybe the i240 would go 150 for you, or 145. Go take a look at the i530 is going to be a great option. We can dial in the lofts and things of that nature. But avid player, the other avenue for the i240 over maybe say Blueprint Shane is the sole design, right? The sole's a little bit wider. It's got a little more rounded lead edge. So if you are a little bit steeper on your angle of attack or playing like a wide variety of conditions, or maybe our blueprints with the smaller blade and the little sharper lead edge get into the ground a little bit too much for you, there's another avenue to think about this iron. Maybe it's beyond just the forgiveness per se, and it's more about fitting the iron for your turf interaction, your angle of attack, and giving you a little bit more wiggle room there in how that's going to interact with the turf.
Yeah, Marty, I find it interesting that Victor's an I-Series guy. When you think about great iron players and you think about, some of you were talking about DeMarco. I mean, kind of modern day, if you will, amongst the Ping staff is Havlin.
Yes. And
the way he kind of delivers the club. I mean, the consistency of delivery, I think it's my favorite on tour, just basically from what would it be for righty? 9 o'clock through.
Yes.
It's just crazy his consistency. And you think about an iron player like that, you might not immediately go to like an I series iron, but is Havlin mostly I through the bag?
Yeah, he's played our I series iron for a long time. He's hit our blueprints. And I have a little bit of hypothesis on this, Shane, that I'll talk about here with Havlin. Okay. I'll do a little analogy to putters. We've talked a lot about putters where if you play more toe down putter, the face will be delivered more open and you'll start the ball more to the right for a right-handed golfer. So it's a great way to eliminate a left miss. So putter fitting 101. If you pull your putts, go to a more toe down putter, and you'll hit your start lines better, or you'll deliver the face more open. So when you're looking at irons, a similar behavior and mechanism of action is at play here, and I think that's really why Havlin likes our I Series irons, is because the blade length is longer. So if you play a longer blade length iron, so the CG is just further from the shaft, even at the same lie angle, same shaft, everything else, the face will be delivered more open to the path. And so when he's tried our blueprint irons, obviously he's a good enough ball striker from an impact dispersion standpoint to play our blueprints. So it's like, okay, why does he always like our I Series irons? The blade length's a little bit longer, and that matches up to his expected start lines in his delivered face angle that he likes to see. So it's another factor. I've always had friends say, hey, these bigger long irons, I can fade the long irons easier. And the reason why is not to do with the offset and things of that nature. It's more that the blade length is longer, the CG is further away from the shaft, and for Victor, it's a better matchup of his delivered face angle that he likes to sense, see, and feel, and that he naturally does because he has the face. Obviously, his wrist angles are such that his wrist conditions are such that the face is staying very square relative to the target longer than most. Like he looks literally. You've probably seen some videos of his swing that looks like it mirrors kind of Ping Man as it's going through impact, right?
It's crazy. I mean, are you pretty good about maybe you have a new staffer, maybe a college kid's turning pro, new product comes out. Are you pretty good about nailing what you think they'll land in? Or are you at times as surprised as maybe I am when I see Victor's being an I-Series guy?
Yeah, it's not, we don't always nail it. And I think that's the beauty of custom fitting. And I think that's why everyone still needs to be custom fit the custom fitter is not going to be replaced by AI or some algorithm or something. Like fitting the human is very,
thank goodness.
It's very detailed. It's very nuanced.
I'm getting nervous.
It's very detailed. And it's very nuanced. And so even with all the research we do, Shane, for example, on like shaft fitting, like we got algorithms that we've been working on for decades, and they are really, really good. But even me, I will still say you have to go hit it, see how you respond, and iterate. Now, yes, we're getting better at whittling it down to your 2 or 3 options that will probably work for you. But it's still there. You can't take that aspect of what is the behavior, what is the response of the player to that particular attribute in the club design or shaft. And so Victor's a great example of that. I think you'd look at him and be like, hey, he's a blueprint guy, he flushes it, never misses the center of the face. But what I think we're really doing with Victor is fitting him to the blade length to hit his start lines. That's probably like the primary thing. And so, no, I think going back to your question, we don't always nail it, and that's what makes custom fitting fun and still require. I think it should be, a good testimonial for folks to go out there and still engage in a really good custom fitting. Hopefully, we're building some great tools to help you get more dialed more than ever.
What about lofts on i240? Anything different in terms of loft or gapping with these irons versus maybe 230 or even blueprint?
Our i240, we kind of pride ourselves in it's like our best gapped iron. So along with the blueprints. So we do very rigorous gap testing. And what does that mean, Shane? It means like we want, relatively even spacing throughout all clubs in the bag for the target player, right? And so and even our tools in Copilot there will help give you a recommendation for our gapping app. Shane, really cool. You can go in and say, hey, I'm going to play i240 irons, put in your 7-iron ball speed, launch, and spin with your fitter there. And the app might say, hey, you might need to go to the IDI 4-iron, and your longest iron should be a 5 because it's kind of looking at where your gaps start trailing off. So gapping, the goal of gapping is to get even spacing from all your clubs. And there's a lot of sets out there, even in this category, the i240, that don't deliver that as well as they should. And you don't feel the pain of it in the fitting experience, sadly. It's how the loft progressions and the length progressions play through. So the loft's on the i240, 33-degree 7-iron, which is plenty of loft. It matches our Blueprint S loft. So it has plenty of loft, again, because spin is your friend for the player trying to control distance. And how we progress them has delivered very even spacing. And then obviously, Shane, we have Power Spec, Retro Spec, which are great fitting options. You know, we do a lot of Retro Spec i530, so that's our iron that is pretty strong lofted, and we need to get a little more launch and spin for a lot of players in there. And then conversely, we'll do way more Power Spec i240. And because it's 33-degree 7-iron, if you Power Spec, it's 31.5. Gets you kind of right in between the i530 and the i240 from a distance standpoint. Gets you a little bit more distance. And again, Shane, this iron has an ample amount of bounce on it, plenty of sole width, so you can do it and not worry about the club getting diggy on you.
In terms of launch, like when you kind of look through a window of all the irons, where does the I series, specifically i240, kind of fit? Is it, you know, if you're launching, let's say 500 series, the highest, is 240 below Blueprint? Is it similar to Blueprint? What does launch look like for these irons? For somebody that's thinking, maybe I'm thinking about an I, but I'm not 100% sure. I want it to go a little bit higher than maybe my previous iteration of iron.
Yeah. So launch, we designed so that you got Blueprint T, our tour iron will fly the lowest. And then you have Blueprint S, flies the higher than that. And then you have i240, one window higher than that. So it's perfect from the standpoint of if you're thinking about doing a blended set. This is a great way to kind of think about it. You got the T going the lowest, the S a little bit higher, the 240 a little bit higher. Then you get into our other category of irons like that, the i530. That's going to fly. That's going to fly pretty high, really high relative to what the lofts are. But it's that's where you start mixing lofts a little bit. But we do have some nice tools again in Copilot. If you did want to kind of blend a 240 iron with some of other irons, including i530 long irons. But Shane, what's really nice now is with the addition of IDI, is the IDI is designed to be your long iron replacement that fits seamlessly from a length, loft, gapping standpoint, trajectory window standpoint into your 240. So let's say you want to play the i240, kind of full homogeneous set, maybe 5 through pitch. You can go to the IDI 4-iron and get that little elevation and peak height that's going to help transition into wherever you go beyond that part of your back.
Yeah, it seems like long irons aren't going away. I was a little bit fearful of this. I think when the lofted wood started to pop,
Yeah.
I mean, you and I have spent time talking. I mean, I've had the 7 wood in the bag pretty consistently for the last couple of years. I've messed around with the 9 wood, which I really like at times, especially when I'm playing Northeast golf with gnarly rough and trying to chop it out. We saw that earlier this year at Oakmont where, guys were even leaning, can you make me an 11 wood,
Yeah.
right? I mean, something crazy as deep as that. But it feels like the long irons aren't going away. Is the 3-iron offered in i240 as well? Yeah.
So we got we all the way down to the 3-iron, and that is not a lot of folks will be fit into that club or use that club. I think that's where you're going to the hybrids, the fairway woods, the IDI is a great solution for that transition point. But certainly, yeah, Shane, I'm a fan of. If you're a player kind of in our category, or you're traveling around to play some tournaments or some golf with your buddies, I love having a couple clubs at that top end of the bag. So you got for me, it's like I got the IDI 3-iron, but If I go to high elevation or firm golf course, something with no wind, I'm throwing the 5-wood or the 4-wood in there, right? So you got a couple options. I think that's a great. Now we have so many options right in there. I think for a traveling golfer, a tournament golfer, you should have a couple different options in that part of the bag, depending on the conditions, the wind, traveling, things of that nature.
Yeah, what's interesting is that part of the bag seems to be getting a ton of attention now. You
Yes.
think about, I'd say 8, 9, 10 years ago, it seemed like there was a lot of focus on what's the wedge setup in your bag. It was, are you a 4-wedge guy?
Yeah.
I think there were people with 5 wedges at the time that would play like that. It feels like we're focusing a lot of that attention around that wood, longer iron, 3-iron, 4-iron, something in that category, and making sure that there's multiple options for players depending on where they play, how far they hit it, obviously their handicap and skill set. But I love the fact that that part of the bag isn't forgotten at this point.
Yeah, I mean, just from our standpoint of ping, I mean, we have like 4 different options in there. You can play your long iron, you can play an IDI, you can play a hybrid, you can play a high lofted fairway wood. So, I mean, but with these options comes the challenge of like fitting them properly. And that's where, I mean, we're very excited about all those tools in the gapping app, which helps narrow that down and can make those recommendations based on, your typical launch conditions, because it's so individual to the player. So you got the player launch conditions, and then you have their course conditions, their playing conditions, their preferences, course design. I mean, Shane, I travel around, you do too. And you could be in the same geographic location. One golf course has bunkers and elevated greens in front of it, and if you play all your golf there, that's a totally different fitting optimization than some more open where you can run it up and not elevated greens. So there's so much to it. I love having all these options, and hopefully trying to make it easier for the golfer to figure out which one's right for them.
Did you see some of the tour players lean into i240 pretty quickly?
Yeah. So Turl Hatton put a couple. He's been kind of a blended set player for us. So he put long irons into play right out of the gate. Tristan Lawrence, a couple long irons in play right out of the gate.
A couple guys that played well at Oakmont.
Well at Oakmont.
A couple guys that played well at a tough golf course.
Yep. Lauren Coughlin, friend of the pod. She put him in immediately. Absolutely loves them. Othahar Munoz on the LPGA Tour. Again, Shane, I just want to emphasize how important this iron has been on the LPGA Tour. So I'm super excited to see kind of what our numbers are and how they shake out, both with our PGA Tour players, LIV players, and LPGA.
Marty, what's it like for the design team when an iron like this is introduced? You go take it to the best players in the world, and they immediately buy in. Like, what is that like in the background for you guys when, you guys understand the science behind it and the hard work that went into it, but you obviously would like to see an incredible player, top 20 player in the world, buy into it immediately. When they buy into it immediately, what's that like in the background for you guys at Ping?
Yeah, it's very gratifying, Shane, because behind every product that comes out, the designer who has led that product has been, pouring their entire professional effort, blood, sweat, and tears into that for a couple of years. I mean, it's a couple of years of full-time work, and so every little piece of nuance and detail that went into it is very, very rewarding. You're always kind of nervous. You're always nervous when when an iron or a product goes out to tour, because you've done everything you could, and it's time to let the bird out into the wild and see if it flies. And so it is very, very gratifying. So we love keeping our pulse. Our tour department sends a very detailed report every single week of what happens on tour. And you better believe that, come Wednesday night when that report goes out before the tournament, that we're all glued to the email, getting ready to hear the feedback, and then make sure it's in play there when the Darrell survey comes out on Thursday.
What about shaft options? We haven't really talked about shaft options in terms of i240. Anything different in that department?
Yeah, no, we have a ton of no upcharge fitting options. I mean, we've been doing that with our iron families for a number of years now. It's been absolutely fantastic. Our default stock option is the Modus 115, and we picked that, Shane, because it's kind of the sweet spot, right, for this type of player. So it's not up in the 120, 130 weight category. The Modus 115, the Modus family has been super popular. Nippon does a fantastic job from a tolerancing standpoint. I mean, their quality in their manufacturing has been absolutely superb. But we thought that would be a great option as the stock option in this iron, because it fits kind of the sweet spot target of the i240 player. But tons of great no upcharge options, including our AWT 3.0, which I'm a big fan of, which is lighter weight in the long irons, gets heavier into the short irons. But you got dynamic gold in there, a lot of great fitting options. When it comes to iron shafts, it's all about the custom fitting. So you want to match the weight of the iron to help you manage and control that low point. If the iron shafts get too light, you might not control your low point that well, even though, your good shots might launch a little bit higher. So that's a tip for folks out there when you go into your fitting environment. Be very mindful not only of the launch and spin when you're trying different iron shafts, and we have this great AFS 3D fitting head where you can plug in different iron shafts in and hit them, Shane, but be mindful of the turf interaction and how many times you maybe hit a little fat, hit a little bit thin. You want to both optimize the launch and spin, so keep your eye on the numbers, but also pay attention to your control of that low point. Like which iron shaft helps you bottom out the most consistently. So those are the two pieces in iron shaft fitting that you kind of want to be aware of.
All right, Marty. I think the thing I pay the most attention to, and I think you touched on this a little bit earlier, but sound. I mean, I'm a big sound guy with the golf club. You and I have talked a lot about practicing without AirPods on. I mean, so you can kind of get that feel. It was funny. I played a little 9-hole round alone yesterday, and I hit a 6-iron out of a fairway bunker, and I had headphones in, and I was kind of watching in the air, and I'm like, I think I got all of it, but I didn't hear it. And then I see it roll up to like 10 feet. I was like, it was the headphones. How is sound in terms of i240, and maybe how different is the sound versus i230?
Yeah, very big deal. It's going to be even just a little bit of that, a little more kind of quieter, slightly more muted. And the way that we accomplished that, Shane, was re-engineered the activated elastomer. So right underneath the badge, if you kind of look down in the cavity of the iron, there's a big kind of pocket in there, and we put a very high volume amount of elastomer material that's very light in terms of the density, so it saves a ton of weight. This is what allows us to put weight to the heel and toe, kind of like a barbell. But the benefit is not only the weighting. That elastomer, when the ball impacts the face, gets what we call activated. So it actually gets kind of squished, just like layers on the golf ball. Just like you have different layers on the golf ball, we have different layers in the cross-section of the i240 iron. So when you start hit the iron with some speed, the face flexes a little bit, and it starts putting those vibrations or that energy into the elastomer. And the elastomer gives some what's called viscoelastic damping. So it provides some damping, which that gets the volume of the sound down a little bit into that zone that the player is kind of yearning for and expecting from this type of iron. Again, Shane, I think a big part of what we're trying to do, it'd be very, I think all of us in golf have hit a product that it looks like it should sound one way, then you hit it and it doesn't. And
100%.
And you're like, wait a minute, my brain's confused. Things aren't matching up. Maybe even if you like the sound, maybe it just doesn't match what you're expecting. Right. And so that's really what we're trying to engineer. We have some great tools. I mean, we talked about the 440 driver with the carbon fly wrap and all these tools we have now that are getting better and better at optimizing the acoustics. So yeah, I think folks go out and hit it with AFS 3D and test it for yourself. But so far, the feedback from our tour players, better players, player testing here is the acoustics of this iron are absolutely fantastic. And more importantly, match what you expect from this iron.
Marty, the biggest question as we wrap up on I240 is how many I240s are in Marty Jertson's golf bag right now?
Shame.
What's the number? What's the number?
Zero.
None.
I'm Blueprint. I'm Blueprint S. I'm 3-iron player right now. I got the IDI 4-iron, and then I go to Blueprint S 5 through 9. Then I go to Blueprint T pitching wedge. Blueprint T pitching wedge. Custom fitting, you know.
It's so good. It's so good. Marty, I'm excited about this. I think the I240s, as I said, I230 was one of my favorite irons. And again, kind of that mixed bag set has been great for me. As I mentioned, I've kind of pulled out the I230 3-iron really like the last probably 2 or 3 months. And it's been a savior for me because depending on the golf course, played a couple of courses on the West Coast and it was firm.
Yep.
You know, you get that thing running and it's a little bit of a different situation than hitting that 7-wood for me. And then I come back home and the 7-wood goes right back into play because it's been really wet in the Northeast and, you know, the rough's kind of been gnarly. And if you miss a fairway, especially on a par 5, you can maybe still give it a rip into that par 5. So as we wrap, anything else on I-240 we didn't hit on before I start to convince you offline to put one in your bag?
Oh yeah, no, it's I love the I240 iron. It's just such an important iron for us. Launches high, more forgiveness in the long irons, plenty of spin. That is so important, man. Maybe you're a better player out there, Shane, that's dabbled with one of these other low spin irons, and you're struggling with your distance control. You haven't been able to hit your numbers like you used to. The I240 is going to be the club for you. It allows you to hit your numbers with a lot of precision. All the boost we have in the inertia and the long iron specifically, easy to get the golf ball in the air, and then the grooves like getting more spin and tighter dispersion in all conditions. Absolutely fantastic. A lot of great shaft options.
Good enough for LC, good enough for Tyrrell, good enough for Victor, good enough for everybody out there listening. Always appreciate it, Marty. This is the Ping Proving Grounds podcast.